people see how we live here, even the Haitian who live in there. Man, what are you doing here?
When Lemuel Ministries first came to the plateau to start working here, it was very desolate, very barren. Pretty much immediately, Manis began planting trees.
It was not easy, but I worked so hard. Plant trees, they died. I plant trees, they died. And I make people work very hard. And I say, you know what? That's your dignity. Work hard. That's your dignity.
When Lemuel come, Lemuel helped me to go to school, and Lemuel invest in me, and now I am here to help Lemuel to invest in other young men, other young girls.
As a Haitian leader, I need to find a way so I can keep my people here. That's why I'm working so hard to find a way so I can help them to be able to live in their own place. I remember crying for food, and my mom couldn't give us anything. I grew up with that thing, one day, if I could be a voice for other kids like me, I would do that, you know.
There's an ancient Near Eastern poem that describes the birth of the universe. And while there are many such poems in existence, this one stands out to me because it describes a God who creates the universe not through violence and conquest, but simply by speaking it into existence. It's almost as if the universe itself is a poem. And then this God creates humans and places them into a garden to work and cultivate that garden. But rather than describing these humans who are naked and vulnerable in this garden in terms of gardening imagery, the poem actually does something interesting and surprising. It describes these humans as if they are kings and queens. And so this poem seems to be expressing the idea that all human beings have value and dignity, regardless of status, as well as suggesting the possibility that the earth is not a land to be conquered, but a garden to be cultivated. Now, if you're familiar with this poem, you may recognize that it comes from the very first pages of the Bible, the Hebrew Scriptures, and I think is a perfect example of an origin story. A story that is significant in the formation and identity of a group of people or even a nation. Obviously, it would have originally been very meaningful to the nation of Israel, but it's also played a role in the formation of many other groups and societies down through the centuries, including our own nation here. And so, whether you find this poem meaningful or not, I think it demonstrates the importance of stories in the development of human cultures and values and languages. As a filmmaker, songwriter, and amateur linguist, I am often fascinated by the ways that stories can shape our realities. Stories have been with us from the beginning as humans have had a need to navigate a chaotic and confusing universe. And so we need stories to provide us with meaning and purpose and a way forward. And those stories can be used for good, they can also be used for more negative ends. Stories can be used to manipulate and abuse and destroy. And so whether the stories are good or bad, I think they are very important, and it's incredible how they can shape our realities. And so the question that I want to explore with you today is this: what does it mean for a place to be good to live in, and how do stories play a role in that process? In 2019, I began production on my first feature-length documentary called The City of God. And The City of God is a 90-minute film that explores the story and mentality of Lemuel Ministries, which is an organization that is based in rural northwest Haiti. Lemuel Ministries was founded by a Haitian man by the name of Manis who grew up in that area, moved away to get educated in the city, and then moved back to work with the people long term. And when I first heard about Lemuel Ministries, I immediately fell in love with their approach, because I had grown up going on a variety of different missions trips with my local church to places all over the world, but often felt at odds with our approach. We would spend a ton of money to travel to an area, do a bunch of projects for the local people, take a few selfies with their kids to post on social media later, and then leave without ever asking if our presence was at all helpful or even possibly detrimental. And then it all clicked when I first heard about Lemuel Ministries, because this was an organization that was providing a better way, a different way to approach poverty alleviation. They prioritize the dignity of their local people. They seek long-term sustainable solutions to their community's problems. And they invest in their community in a way that creates a beautiful place to live in, especially for the next generation. Now, when I set about to make this film, it was important to me that this not be a glorified commercial for the organization. And in fact, the organization agreed with me on this. We didn't want it to be a commercial for them, but rather an exploration into a way of being, especially in a context with tremendously few resources. And so I want to take a few moments to kind of explore a little bit of their story and perhaps take out some principles and ideas that we can apply to our community as well. Now, one of the main themes of the film is the difference between treating people with dignity and using people for profit. I don't know if you know this, but it's actually remarkably easy to take advantage of the disadvantaged. It's really easy to raise money off of the poor. I'm sure you're familiar with some of those stereotypical commercials where a child is presented to you in black and white in some unnamed country with a fly in his eye, and there's somebody telling you that if you just give 10 cents a day, then that will allow this child to eat and be saved from a life of poverty. And these commercials are effective because they pull on our heartstrings. Who wouldn't want to help a child like that? But the problem is not only does a commercial like that compromise the dignity of the child being presented to us, but often the systems and organizations and initiatives that are behind these commercials are simply ineffective at dealing with the problems of the poverty-stricken communities they're seeking to help. There's actually a great documentary that overlaps with some of the themes of my film called Poverty, Inc., as in Poverty Incorporated. And it's a documentary that explores in detail the problems with the global aid system. That oftentimes the organizations and initiatives, as I said before, are at best ineffective, if not outright predatory, as people actively try to profit off of the misfortune of others. Now, to give you a more tangible example of this dynamic and what I'm talking about, I want to look at a specific instance with the country of Haiti that hopefully will help you understand what this dynamic here. And so in 2010, there was a tremendous earthquake that struck Haiti. And in the aftermath of that quake, there was much devastation in the country. And so billions of dollars of aid and resources were donated to the country to help it stabilize. But the problem is that in the years since, much of that aid seems to have disappeared, and the country is certainly no better off than it was before. There's actually an NPR article that explores this in more detail, and here's a quote from that article. U.S. aid has spent about $1.5 billion since the earthquake. Less than a penny of every dollar goes directly to a Haitian organization. There's a lot more layers to this than I have time to get into, but I recommend checking out that article if you're interested to learn more. Another tangible example of this dynamic actually has to do with rice. So at the time, tons of rice was also donated to the country of Haiti, but the problem is that Haiti actually has rice. They have rice farmers. And so when you provide a free resource into a context where the locals make their living off of that resource, you destroy their livelihood and their ability to build a future for themselves. And this is why I love Lemuel Ministries so much, because in a context where survival for them means trucking water daily from 2 hours away because there are no clean water sources in your immediate vicinity, or it means planting trees over and over again with the knowledge that they will most likely die in hopes that eventually some of them will take. In a context where that's what daily life looks like, these people refuse to use their poverty just to raise money, instead prioritizing the dignity of their people. They believe that if they stick to their core principle of people over profit, that in the long run they will see their community flourish. Now, I could tell you their whole story, but it would take about 90 minutes. So, that's a joke. go see the film. So I do want to look at a couple of specific principles that I think are really valuable that can be applied to any community. And the first one, as I've already indicated, is that people are more important than profit. A number of years ago, I actually shifted in my career and jumped into a brand new career as a full-time media production entrepreneur. And at the time, I had no idea what I was doing, but one thing that I chose to do right out of the gate was to build relationships with people in the community, local business owners, arts organizations, churches, and so on. And what I found is that the more that I prioritized building genuine relationships with people, the more my business profited. Oftentimes there's this idea in business that if you prioritize profit, then that's how you get profit. And of course, to some extent, that is true. I do believe I could probably be making more money than I am in my business. But my question is this: what difference does it make if I make millions in my business but no longer have a community, no longer have a place to live? What does it profit me if I gain the whole world but lose my soul, lose my love and care for my neighbors, and my desire to see everyone in my community flourish? Success is about more than monetary gain. And it's not a solo gig. It takes a village of dedicated, creative people investing in each other for the long haul, and especially for the next generation. Which brings me to my second principle that I learned while making this film, is the importance of investing for the long haul. If we want robust, resilient communities, it doesn't happen by aggressively scaling production or going viral or building prefabricated houses overnight. Rather, prioritizing people over profit gives us more sustainable profit in the end. Prioritizing people over profit gives us more sustainable profit in the end because it benefits all of us if we are taking care of each other, if we are seeking to serve each other's needs, even if it means that we have less money in the bank at the end of the day. Now, this is easier said than done. This requires sacrifice and changing our perspectives and genuinely listening to each other. And so how do we begin that process? How do we shift from a mindset of self-preservation into one that seeks the development of our community? This is where I believe stories come into play. Storytelling is key. Not just telling the stories of other communities like this Haitian village to help inspire us with what's possible, but also telling the stories of people within our own communities here, giving us a sense of rootedness and identity, as well as helping us envision tangible solutions to our own problems. In 2019, when I began production on my film, I had no idea what was around the corner in 2020. And now it seems that everywhere we turn, we are facing a crisis of community. We are struggling with identity and purpose, lost in a sea of clickbait news articles, partisan politics, and the dehumanization of people all over the world. And while we do need policy changes and economic stimulation, social justice, climate action, I believe we just as much need artists and storytellers to help us envision what is possible for the future, as well as teach us to love the places that we're in and the people that we're already around. And so, what are some of our local stories? What are ways that we can root ourselves right here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin? Obviously, if you have spent any time in Rhinelander, you drive in through town and it becomes immediately evident that there is a symbol that is significant and unique to our area in the form of a little green mythical creature called the hodag. But there are countless other smaller ways that we have identity and that are unique to our area. From local parks and historical museums to churches, we have walking paths and family-owned businesses and plenty of downtown events. We have a local radio station, we have an art gallery, a brewery, we have our very own Nicolet College right here. And actually, all of these photos here that you're seeing in the background of my slides are photos that I have taken right here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. So we live in a beautiful place, and we certainly have a tremendous amount of natural resources, but there are other ways that our small community struggles with resources. And as we were discussing earlier, obviously this community in Haiti struggles with even more resources than we do, but something that is a constant in any community, the most important, the core part of any community is the people. And so regardless of what other resources we have people. Now, growing up, I actually moved around quite a bit, and as a result, struggled to have a sense of rootedness and identity and history. And so as I began having children, I really wanted to have a place for them to have history and rootedness. I wanted to put down roots, and I realized that Rhinelander actually is an incredible place to do so. Not only do we have the wild, untamed wilderness, but we also have a little bit of that downtown busyness of city life, which are both things that I value. But without question, the number one reason that I can see myself living here long term is the incredible and diverse group of people that I've had the privilege to meet over the few years that I've been here, some of whom have become very good friends, some of whom are sitting right here in this room. It's all about the people here. And this photo is actually really significant. This is the Rhinelander premiere of my documentary this past December at Roman Cinema. And what you see here is actually a pretty diverse group of people from a lot of different sectors of society here in the Northwoods that all came out to support me and my passion for storytelling. And so, in conclusion, so often the stories that root us to a place, that give us a sense of identity and purpose, are the stories of the people around us. From musicians and photographers to gardeners and potato farmers, blacksmiths, coffee shop owners, pastors, baristas, the list goes on. These are all people that I've had the privilege to meet. But notice that that list describes only what people do. And as the ancient Near Eastern poem that I referenced at the beginning suggests, people are not valuable simply because of what they do or what they contribute to society. People are valuable because they are. They exist. And if we stick to that core principle of seeing the inherent value of all human beings within our communities, I believe that we can see over time our little town flourish in ways we never thought possible. And for some reason, I'm forgetting my closing line. Of course, I knew this was going to happen, and I don't have the notes in front of me, so let me back up just slightly. So often it is the people in a community that root us to a place. And if we tell ourselves better stories, stories of a brighter future, of a community that is full of dignity and diversity, like a garden city, built for humans, all human beings, to flourish within it, we might just see these stories come true. Thank you.